There we go. It's mostly for the convenience of those that cannot attend and will be accessible on our Facebook page and our website, mossbay.org, probably starting tomorrow. We kindly request that you keep your microphones muted unless you're actively speaking. We'll reserve questions for the end of each presentation. And if you wish to ask a question, you have the option just to unmute yourself and speak it, or you can put it in the chat and I will read it out so that we can record that for the others. Okay, so let's get started here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I want to thank everyone who voted and provided feedback to our neighborhood survey. I'm just going to go over the results really quickly here. So this is the ratified slate of directors, and congratulations to Joyce Tinziman, which is our newest board member. Joyce, I see you in the Uptown Collab room. Here we go. Do you think you can unmute and maybe just say hello to everyone?
Hello, this is Joyce.
There you go. Okay.
I feel like I told Blake, I feel like I'm getting ready to host a talk show with
Yeah,
our backdrop
your
here.
setup's great. Okay, I probably should have notified you earlier, but did you just want to say a couple of words around your background and why you love Kirkland or specifically Moss Bay?
Oh, hi. Yeah. So I came to Moss Bay about 7 years ago, having returned from 5 years in South America. And I've lived a lot of places, having grown up in Boston. I've lived in DC. I've lived in Palm Beach County, Florida, New York City. And I always find really, really great places to live. But Kirkland, downtown Kirkland is amazing. Um, and I recently rejoined the Neptune Sailing Club on the bay that I used to belong to back in the 80s when I lived in Bellevue. So and I belong to the Columbia Athletic Club, and everything is so convenient here. I just love living here. And I'm really excited about living uptown now. I've been in uptown about a year, and we have a really great variety of ages here and professions, and it's very cool. Very cool place to be. So I would like to help engage some of the younger people, some of the singles, and some of the young families.
Perfect. We definitely welcome that. Okay, great. Thanks, Joyce. So I'm just going to go over the results of the survey. For some of these, I've included last year's results so that we can kind of compare and contrast how our neighborhood is shifting potentially. So first one is a preferred meeting format. The online has decreased a little bit. In-person has shrunk a bit, and a lot of people, more people selected other from 15 to 33% this year. Most of the other comments were around accommodation, alternating, or hybrid, or either one kind of thing. So as we dive down a little bit into that question, the question is, what format would you most likely attend if there was a hybrid option available? So now we have more in-person than we did last year, going from 40 to 46%. And here we go down. Okay. And so if we net the two out, we have 40% with an in-person preference and 60% online. So that's the online has increased a little bit from last year, but it's still pretty close. And one of the things that we said we were going to try to do is to do some in-person meetings this coming year. And we'll see how that works out for everyone. Okay. The question was, how many neighborhood association meetings have you attended or watched the recorded videos in the last 12 months? 42% over 5. We have 17% that said none. And then in between here, there's 13 and 29% between 1 and 5. Now, this is a summary of those that attended less than 5 meetings. What are the changes or improvements that would encourage you to attend more? First one, number one response was more opportunities for volunteering in the community. Second one, tied for second, I guess, shorter, more focused meetings, different meeting times, more engaging topics or guest speakers. At the bottom of the list, more social events and in-person meeting options. So the board will take these things to heart, and we will see how we can try to meet these requests for the people that haven't attended as many meetings. Okay, so what were the areas of interest that we as a neighborhood association can provide to the residents? Very similar to last year. So number one, forum discussion on city issues. Number 2 to 4, I guess these are all tied for second, city initiatives, new projects, real estate development, and city services. Then we get to transportation issues, local business introductions is kind of in the middle. And at the bottom, we have these neighborhood-only candidate forums. And once again, might be a little confusing, but that's only when we have candidates, right? Or when we have elections for candidates. And just above that is social gatherings. Okay, in terms of neighborhood satisfaction, the highest ranked one from this year and last year were our parks. Walkability, safety looks like has decreased from last year, which was number one. Cleanliness, appearance, sense of community has gone up, and satisfaction with transportation also has increased quite a bit, even though it is still at the sort of the lowest satisfaction ranked part of our neighborhood. Okay, so that concludes the survey results. Thanks everyone again. So the first presenter we have is Tasnim from Connections Health Solutions. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Alex. Thank you so much for welcoming me into the space. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tasnim, and I am a longtime resident of Kirkland, but we're actually up in the Kingsgate area. So it's a wonderful opportunity to come and speak with all of you tonight about our new crisis center that's opened here in Kirkland in the Totem Lake area. Just by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with this new crisis center?
Oh, it's hard to see everyone, but
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
few people. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
Michael,
Okay.
I see.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Alex, I will need to share screen
Yep.
for the presentation. Okay, excellent. Let me go ahead and
Is it working?
yeah, let me just get this up. Okay, here you go. Okay.
Yep.
Can everyone see this?
We can. Yep, I can.
Excellent, excellent. All right, wonderful. So I just wanted to take a little bit of your time and introduce you to our new center, which actually opened officially on August 10th of this year. So Connections Health Solutions is our 24-hour, 7 days a week emergency behavioral health, mental health crisis center that's opened here in Kirkland. So this particular model of Connections is actually been in Arizona for a little over, that's almost about 20 years here, but the model of the 23-hour observations, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes when I get into that space, was founded by 2 emergency psychiatrists who pioneered this model in 1993 as an alternative to emergency rooms and boardings to jail. So they brought this model to Arizona in 2009, and that's how we founded Connections Health Solutions. So ideally, the model provides a high quality and cost efficient alternative to the emergency rooms and jails for individuals that are experiencing behavioral health emergencies. SAMHSA and the National Council for Mental Wellbeing and national experts have adopted this model as the national best practices. So when an individual comes to Connections, they're ideally coming to a space that is nestled around the corner of the Kirkland Police Department, Kirkland Municipal Court, and then on the other side of this area is going to be Azteca and Olive Garden. So individuals that are coming here during urgent care hours, which is ideally 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week, are going to come through our front door, which is this here. We are a 3-story building, but utilizing the first 2 floors of what used to be the previous Lowe's corporate office. So while we kept the external area as is, upgraded kind of the landscaping, our parking spaces, we restructured the internal spaces of this building. So ideally, individuals come to Connections, again, through urgent care, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 7 days a week. They will come through our double doors here. Now, these pictures were taken prior to our opening. So there's a couple of spaces that have, fixtures in them that you won't see in these pictures. And the disclaimer that all of our individuals in these pictures are either Connection staff or our visiting staff from Arizona. We do have a body scanner, like a basically security scanner that's right here where the security personnel sits. And then in this corner here, we do have lockers for oversized items. When an individual comes to Connections, regardless of circumstance, regardless of insurance, they will be welcomed into our reception area here. They check in with our unit coordinators at the front desk. ID, if they have insurance, great. If they don't, we still welcome them to our space. Our urgent care center is through this door here where our 2 ladies are standing, where they can see individuals, they can see our providers and our behavioral health team for anything kind of like, for like therapy, counseling, medication refill assistance. So if an individual is, new to the area, or they're just not able to see their provider for some time, but they need their medications to continue their treatments, they are more than welcome to walk into Connections during the urgent care hours and be able to see a provider immediately and be able to be assessed and then provided with the medication refill for up to 7 days. If there's a medication change, that is also something that the providers will look into. Other things that they can be provided here in the urgent care is like assistance to schedule follow-up appointments with their providers if they have one, or even providers here at Connections if they're looking for something that's short-term while they find a permanent provider. We can refer them to social services, community-based organizations, connect them to peer support specialist teams that we have on site, but also externally. Perhaps they're not from the Kirkland area. They may be coming to us from somewhere as far as Pierce County, or perhaps we've had individuals come to us from Wenatchee as well as Bellingham and Olympia. So if they're going back to their communities upon discharge, what are some community-based services that are available to them in that area? So when someone comes to Connections, they'll see a behavioral health medical provider. So anyone from a medical director, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant, case managers, and then behavioral health specialist. When they come to our center in the urgent care area, typically they see a 90-minute door to behavioral health provider time. We'll go into, go ahead.
Tasnim, we've had a request. Can you turn on your video? We can't seem to see you.
If I turn on video, then I won't be able to you won't be able to see the virtual.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to our first responder entrance. So while we have the front door, we also have our back door, which is dedicated to our first responders team. This is just behind the building. So in these marked spots, our first responders are going to, obviously park here. So there's anyone from law enforcement to ambulance to our crisis outreach teams, anyone that's coming from a community-based organization that has anything to do with first response. So they bring the individuals through our doors here. and they are greeted by our clinical team. When an individual comes here through law enforcement, it's usually, and I know that Slominski's on this call. So if you want to put any input on this, please do. It's usually less than 10 minutes, less than 7 minutes, a very warm welcome handoff from patient to clinic. This just allows our law enforcement, our first responders to go back to community and be able to, continue the work that they're doing, while our clinical team is then able to support our patient that has arrived. But in addition to this, when individuals voluntarily are coming to our center after hours, so after 7, like after the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. time, they will also come through this door as well. This is our intake room. So when an individual is brought to Connections, they are then moved out from their street clothing to scrubs. So our patients are given the spicy orange scrubs. Their items are bagged and put into a safe space. They're providing assessments, vitals, and then from there, this is obviously going into the next step of care. One moment, please. Sorry, somebody in the room. This is our 23-hour observation. In here, we have 32 reclining chairs. So ideally, an individual will, be provided a rapid assessment, treatment, stabilization, and like a proactive, discharge planning while they're in this therapeutic space. In this area, we have our multidisciplinary team that comes in, anyone from behavioral health specialists to nurses, our psychiatric providers, our peers, recovery support specialists, and then our social service professionals come through here, all collaboratively working for the patient to ensure that they are, being provided with that a welcoming space. So as you can see, we have one space here for chairs, and then we also have another space here for chairs. We provide this smaller space for individuals who may not be, comfortable in a larger area, and also for individuals who may need that extra space for treatment, or just not ready for crowds. We also have an intentional large space here. Well, this is an area that we're working with a multidisciplinary team. We also understand that sometimes patients do feel uneasy and may have need to de-escalate a situation. So we want to ensure that there's space that we can compassionately, be able to bring that individual to a safe spot. This is our team station. So again, these are pictures that were taken before we opened, so it looks really open right now, but ideally individuals working here together for patient care. Our recovery support specialists wear the lighter green uniforms, scrubs, sorry. And then we have our behavioral health specialists who are in the black scrubs. We have our providers who are in the gray scrubs, and then we have our nurse team in the burgundy scrubs. While this is the first floor, on each of our floors, we do have a calm room where patients can ideally come in, work with our multidisciplinary team, just kind of a space for them to relax, kind of talk about what they're feeling in that moment, what they're experiencing. And the really neat thing about these rooms is that this white panel here allows the room to be adjusted with light, how dark, light or bright, but it also changes color. So we can go anywhere from an avocado green, which is kind of the same color as this chair, to a powdery blue color, and then a lavender, soft lavender color as well. So it really helps to provide the patient with kind of that calming effect. In our bathrooms, we are able to provide showers in most of these bathrooms. So we have the toilets, of course, but then we also have the patient bathrooms that supply the showers. So as you can see in here, we have very minimal fixtures, no pull cords or anything that a patient could self-harm themselves with. our crisis stabilization area. So now we're on the second floor. So the second floor of the building, we have our crisis stabilization unit, and then we also have our evaluation treatment unit. So each unit is a hallway of their own on the second floor, and each of them has 16 beds in each hallway. We have patient pods in both, which basically just allows patients to come out, walk around, socialize with other patients, or kind of socialize even with our behavioral health team, of course. We do have two TVs here. This hollow space here also has a TV in it now. Everything is Netflix, or I think they also have ability for YouTube. I'm not sure, but I definitely know they have Netflix, but everything is PG-13 and less, so that we're not engaging in things that we shouldn't be. All of our nurses stations do have a 360 view of the area. That way they can ensure that patients are safe, and know what's happening in the area. This is a space of our 1-bed unit, and this is a space of our 2-bed unit. In our evaluation treatments hallway, we will occasionally have individuals who come in involuntarily. And so when they have court dates, we do work with the ITA court. And so instead of transporting them to the courts, kind of aggravating or, bringing them to a crisis or a trauma moment, we do provide the courtroom here at Connections. So they're in the safe space. Attorneys, support teams, our clinical staff that needs to be a part of this generally meet in here. Through this door, we have the attorney spaces as well as a conference room. This is our seclusion and restraint area, which is on the first floor, but also we have one on the second floor. So this is really at the, extreme need. We definitely don't ever want to see anybody in this space, but when it's absolutely necessary, so that the patient is unable to harm themselves or is harm to others, this is what our seclusion and restraint area is for at that time. So as you can see, there's really nothing in here except for this bed, and when absolutely necessary, we are also able to restrain the individual. And then we have our transitions continuum of care space. So this is kind of like our outpatient walk-in services. Individuals can come here and work with our recovery support specialist team, our case managers, our behavioral health specialists, to ideally understand their path of recovery, and kind of coordinate with primary care and their specialists, community resources and agencies, and then also if there's a gap in that care, how can our team provide that extra level of support, so that there really is no gap there. So they're able to come here and work with our care team. Also, if they were provided a prescription from one of our providers, and it wasn't working for them, they could come here and then meet with our providers and have that conversation. We have consult rooms so that patients can work with our providers on goal setting, on understanding, what is bringing them to the crisis, how they can better support that need. And then up in our crisis stabilization unit, we have a space for group therapy. So this is where individuals are able to, kind of work together on approaches and therapies for like motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma-informed care, and then also, provide crisis safety planning. So developing plans to recognize, instances like suicidal thoughts, or, identify those steps to, ensure their safety, and when and how to ask for help at kind of like the first, as the first step of their needs. So this is our new crisis center. Oops. Let's start share there. Okay, there we go.
Hey, great. Thank you so much for that virtual tour. Very impressive facility. I really like the furniture. Wow. Okay, so we have some questions here. Um, so Mary Pat says, I've read in the news that it is still underutilized. Do you have any comments about, what the utilization is versus what your targets are, and how do you think you're going to get there?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say we've only been open for a little over 3 months. People are still learning about us. I wouldn't say that we're underutilized. We definitely do need to get the word out, right? Everything new takes time, and so that's kind of my position. That's my role. That's I'm also here tonight to keep our neighbors informed of who we are, what we're able to provide, and that this is a welcoming space for all, regardless of insurance, regardless of circumstance, no judgment, and absolutely not a wrong door. If in doubt of a mental health, behavioral health crisis, please walk into Connections 24 hours a day and let our providers, support you where possible.
Okay. Carolyn asks, how long can people stay there?
Absolutely. So in our crisis stabilization unit, it's about 14 days. Evaluation treatment, we're looking about maybe about 4 to 5 days, kind of. But I mean, if there was a continuum of care needed, we are able to work with other providers in the area, other facilities in the area to transfer that care. We have an entire, like I said, multidisciplinary team. We have our medical provider, our clinical services team that is able to collaborate that care for the individual.
Any data you could share in terms of the top medical conditions that the clinic has seen to date?
Kind of all mental health, behavioral health. I mean, we're not going to see a lot of medical crisis. It's going to be more of the emergency behavioral health.
Okay.
So anything from I don't know, kind of keep me real on this. If you know anything, but I would say is, we definitely have individuals coming in with, severe anxieties, depression, suicidal ideations, aggressive behaviors. So really anything that we can think of emergency crisis, behavioral mental health.
Okay. What about the funding? How does that work for the crisis center?
There's a lot of different umbrellas that it comes through. So ideally, the North King County Coalition of Cities came together and realized that there was a crisis, and that we needed more resources and something that was more specific and dedicated to behavioral health. And so there's going to be a lot of different spaces that the funding comes through.
And are there other crisis centers? I mean, how many other crisis centers do we have in King County, and where's the next closest one?
So when we think about something of this model, we're only going to look at Connections. We know that the King County recently passed the levy for the new 5 centers. We're actually before that, so we're 10 steps ahead of that, if we want to say it that way. These crisis centers are obviously going to come around by 2026, and all 5 should be available by 2030.
Got it. Okay. I don't see any other question. Oh, wait, a couple more here. Do you take referral from nursing homes where people with dementia are acting out, such as hitting staff?
Yes, absolutely. So again, we don't really need a referral. We don't need appointments. I mean, if the individual is, as per the question, acting out, we would love to support that individual at Connections. Absolutely. Please do bring them.
Okay. Here, Chuck is asking if maybe Lieutenant Slominski can comment on the impact of Connections so far.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. We've got a great working relationship with them. And they just opened up in August, so we've been kind of learning how to work together really well. Just during the presentation that Tasnim was putting on, I did a quick query of just how many calls our police department has had associated with it since October 1st through today. We've had 43 calls for service where we've either brought somebody there or had some reason to have a connection with Crisis Connection. Now, something to think about. Again, Crisis Connection is all about behavioral health. A lot of these individuals that are now going to Crisis Connections would have been going up to Evergreen Hospital. So we were actually doing a huge service of diverting people away from the emergency room and actually bringing them to a facility that's better equipped to handle this particular type of situation, right? These people are specialized in particular behavioral health things, whether it's schizophrenia or anxiety or suicidal ideation. All of those are now being diverted away from the ER and to Crisis Connections.
Perfect. Chuck has an additional question. Do you help people with addictions?
As an underlying, so our primary would be bringing individuals in for emergency behavioral mental health. But yes, if there is an addiction causing the behaviors of absolutely, and again, when in doubt, our providers have made it very clear: bring them to Connections, allow the providers to make that assessment and what that care and that treatment's going to look like.
Okay. I think that's it for now. So thank you so much, Tasman, for joining us today and sharing your presentation. It's definitely a great service to the community.
Absolutely.
We'll maybe touch base in a year or so and maybe get an update from you on how things are going.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here tonight. And if anyone would like, additional time or have additional questions, Alex does have my email address. I'm most happy to meet with you. I love coffee, of course, being in Seattle, so happy to do that. Also in your external networks for your, employers or anybody else that you believe could benefit from a presentation. It's usually longer than this, but in respect of time for everyone here tonight, I kept it a little bit shorter. So happy to make a longer presentation where we're available.
Great, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay. So next up, Michael. Are you there? Yes, Director, Finance and Administration for the city. We have the exciting topic of the city budget.
Good evening. I don't know if you want to share what I sent you or I can share my screen.
Either way, you want to share yours? You can probably have better control over it that way.
And
yeah, I can see it. Nice.
Screen. Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invite. As Alex said, I'm the Director of Finance Administration. I've been with Kirkland almost 21 years, and I've been the Director of Finance for the last 9+ years. And have a very high-level overview of the budget and the budget process. City of Kirkland has a 2-year budget, which always starts on an odd year. So the 25-26 budget is the next budget. And as I also shared this presentation with Alex, there's just some contact information for myself if anybody has any questions in the future. And there is an email address for budget feedback at kirklandwa.gov. And we'll take any comments on the budget anytime and respond to you. Budget timeline. This starts with June of this year in the mid-year review. And actually, the preparation for the 25-26 budget starts pretty near the beginning of the year with council retreat and council priorities input. And also the staff start working on the utility rates for the next 2 years at the beginning of this year, and any internal rates like equipment rental or replacement or IT replacement or facilities. But by the time we get to June and July and August, departments are estimating what they're going to spend for this year and what they're going to spend for the next 2 years. And we calculate the cost of wages and benefits. And then by the time we get to September, service packages is what we call them when new services are requested for the city of Kirkland. September, beginning of October is when the city manager is reviewing all of this data. And then we put together the city manager's recommended budget, which goes to council this year, which went to council this year and to the public. It's on our website, city website, on October 18th. And then the council had a 6-hour study session on October 24th, and it has been discussed at every council meeting since then, and adoption is planned for December 10th. Opportunities for public input include at every council meeting, items from the audience, every public hearing. We have had public hearings on September 17th, November 6th, and this coming tomorrow night is the next public hearing with the discussion of the budget once again. Again, The documents were available on the 18th, a study session on the 24th, and then it was a council study session and a public hearing on the preliminary budget on November 6th. And all of these are available on video on the website if anybody wants to go and look them up. Tomorrow night, we have another public hearing on the budget, and council is set to adopt the 25 property tax levy ordinance and then complete deliberations for adoption on December 10th. The theme of the 25-26 budget is a sound budget for a flourishing city, taking from the mayor's State of the City address earlier this year. And what the city has been able to do is, because we always project a forecast 6 years of expenses, even though we're creating a 2-year budget, and we look to see what the gap is going to be in the future. So this budget is lowering the gap in 27-28 budget, sustaining the current levels of service in key areas, and using the revenues that we're getting that are increasing in the next 2 years to address the inflation cost, which has affected the cost of labor and supplies. So the goal is to have protect key services and council goals in a sustainable manner against the backdrop of uncertainty. So the 25-26 budget is balanced with the deficit in out years narrowed, funding all of our reserves and following the financial policies, which helps maintain Kirkland's AAA credit rating. And we have certain restricted revenues, which only can be used for certain things. So we're maximizing the use of restricted revenues for certain expenditures. The total 2-year budget is just over $1 billion. The city has 27 funds, and so each fund has its own balanced budget. General fund, which provides the expenses, the revenues for the police, fire, parks, and most government operations, is about 30%. General government non-operating is really primarily includes capital projects and debt service, things that are non-operating. And then the city also has 3 utility funds: solid waste, surface water, and wastewater. General fund for the 2-year budget for the general fund is about just over $325 million. And a third of that is supported by sales tax, a third almost by property tax, and about 11% with utility tax. So about 60% of the general fund revenue comes from taxes. The general fund budget by program for the next 2 years: public safety takes about 50% of our general fund budget. General government, about 20%. Culture and recreation, that's parks and community services primarily, takes about 10%. By category, you'll see that 58% of the general fund money is wages and benefits. That is the primary services, the staffing that supports all the services for the city. Salaries and benefits, the largest share of the general fund budget, as I mentioned, 58%. There are 2 open contracts. The city has 6 bargaining units, and 2 of them are up for negotiation right now. They open at the end of this year. And the city sets aside money to take care of cost of living increases and what contracts may happen for the next 2 years. A little over $7.5 million is set aside for the increase in wages and benefits for the next 2 years. And you can see here that salaries account for a little over 8% of that. Health benefits is just under 30%. And other benefits are just over 4%. So a total of about a 10% increase in salaries and wage benefits in the next 2 years. This nearing the last slide, expenditure changes by department. These are all departments primarily in the general fund. And so you can see each department has changed in each staffing. A helpful piece of information to get an overall view of the budget is reading this budget message in the budget that's online, because that's only about 30 pages, and the first 3 or 4 pages are a direct message from our city manager telling you what the high priorities of the city are and where the expenditures are being focused. Any questions? I know I went through that really fast, so.
No, thanks. I think that's the kind of the level that we were hoping for. So very well done. Um, just something you mentioned earlier in terms of the service packages that are proposed. Who actually creates those? Can you give us some examples of what those have looked like? And like how large of an impact are we talking that can fit into a service package?
Service packages are, well, I think some of the smallest ones are at $10,000 or so, but they could be a staff position or several staff positions, which can be several $100,000 for a 2-year period. Or one of the largest, I think, is the purchasing of a new ladder fire truck. That is in the vicinity of $2.5 million.
Right.
And the city council has stated goals, which are available on the website. And each of the service packages is to align with one of the city council goals. And so they arise from the departments themselves, all the department directors. They look at what their mission is and what's going to accomplish in the next 2 years and what their department needs. And they put together packages. The city manager puts some packages together and tries to follow the requests of the council policy and the council goals for what the city needs and where the city is moving to. And the city manager puts all those together and takes the available revenues, and we put together a list of, you can find actually in the budget, there's a section, you can find it in the table of contents, the service packages, and you'll see everything that has been requested from the departments, and then subsequently what the city manager has recommended and what the city manager has not recommended. And in the budget message, in the last third half of the budget message, is a short description of each of the additional services that were requested in this budget and have been recommended by the city manager.
Okay. So I can't really see show of hands easily here. So yeah, please, if you have a question for Michael, you can just go ahead and unmute.
I do have one last slide. If you can see that, it shows what our general purpose reserves. We have a contingency reserve, a general capital contingency, operating reserves, revenue stabilization. In total, these add, our target is of just under $25 million, and this is about 10% of the annual revenues. And this is what helps keep our AAA credit rating. It helps us be conservative in times of downtime where there's a buffer. Another thing that City of Kirkland does is has a modified 2-year leg on sales tax. We estimate the amount of sales tax we're going to get in 2024, and that is the revenue figure we use for 2025 and 26. We don't add any growth into it because the future is uncertain, and we don't incorporate a recession into the forecasts. And this has served Kirkland very well in the Great Recession, in the downturn from the pandemic. We didn't have to lay any people off because of our conservative budgeting practices.
Great. So in terms of, I guess, public input, right? So you mentioned there's a public hearing that's happening in November, and then after that, it would just be the final adoption. And when do we get communication in terms of the actual final numbers for like tax levy and things like that?
We have to give a property tax request to King County before December 2nd. And so for the ordinance that the council we're hoping adopts tomorrow, is we inflate the new construction amount, because if we ask the county for less than what we get, that's what they give us. If we ask for more, they cut it off at the legal limit. And they give us the final worksheet because they haven't given us all the numbers for the new construction, and we likely get that at the beginning of December, and then the council will do a final ordinance where you can see the actual rate is.
Okay. Great. I think that should wrap things up. Thank you so much, Michael, for attending and explaining this to us. So this happens every 2 years, right?
Happens every 2 years, and the city also adjusts the budget basically every summer and every December. So there's times that it's touched again, and public can give a comment anytime during a council meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have I guess just an update on status in terms of the neighborhood safety. Are you still with us, Lieutenant Slominski?
Yeah. Hi, Alex. And
Hi.
actually, a presentation I'd be happy to do.
Oh, fantastic. Yep.
Screen sharing. Is that showing up for you guys?
Not yet.
You said no, it's not.
Nope.
Showing up on my end.
Okay, I just made you co-host. Maybe you can try again. Oh, something's happening. Okay, we're good.
Are you seeing the Moss Bay neighborhood 2018?
I see an Excel sheet.
There you go.
Oh, okay, here we go. Yep.
Sorry. Appreciate you. Yeah, so I'm happy to cover a couple of things. Right after that, right, just here's some of us interacting in the neighborhood. Again, we have a full service police department between, patrol, investigations. We have our own jail, neighborhood resource officers, community resource officers, traffic unit. So some of the things I'd like to cover today, crime rates in the Moss Bay neighborhood, 2023 versus current crime rates of 2024. I have a couple case highlights I want to bring forward, just some cases specific to your neighborhood dealing with prolific burglaries, both a residential and a commercial burglary series. And then talk a little bit about crime mapping and prevention tips. I've got some traffic updates for the Moss Bay community. Talk about our new established crowd management unit. And then also we have a new animal control officer. So right off the bat, here's the crime stats, blue being 2023 and the orange being 2024. So I just quickly let you guys know that this chart does depict selected cases and reported activity for the Moss Bay neighborhood for all of 23 and year to date of 2024 through November 13th. There's one robbery this year, and that was an attempted robbery at Peter Kirk Park. As the victim was walking to their car, the suspect tried to grab their purse as they ran by, but failed and continued running on the park trail. Unfortunately, the victim didn't see the suspect's face, and we were unable to resolve that one because of lack of lead. Listed the theft incidents were predominantly shoplifts and mail thefts, with local stores in downtown Kirkland being popular targets. Burglaries, auto thefts, and warrant arrests are slightly higher than last year, but when I say slight, we're talking very slight. The burglaries are primarily commercial in nature, and something to consider is as the holiday ramps up, we may see an increase in package thefts and car fouls where holiday gifts are targeted, along with a few more fraud reports related to scams. So this is what I want to quickly highlight. This is one of our prolific burglars. This is Amanda Allen. We first caught wind of her in February. She targeted 3 different downtown apartment buildings. First one happened in February. Female burglarized the Vela apartment storage units. Officers were able to obtain surveillance footage from the apartment building and then also process the scene for latent fingerprints, utilizing a plastic bin that she handled in one of the units. Before we got any results back from the APHIS, she then was arrested by officers the following month, burglarizing another location, the Laurel Park condos, a little bit south of Moss Bay, but still not that far outside of the community. They're right there off of Northeast 68. And then again, the following month in April, we had an additional storage locker burglary at the Waterloo complex. This ended up coming back. She'd stolen a high-end bicycle out of there. Our officers were able to locate that bicycle on OfferUp, contacted that person. That person actually had proof that they purchased it from Amanda Allen immediately after the burglary. They were able to develop probable cause. Now, going back to this first one, as you'll see, our officers did collect latent prints. We did not get results until August, but those did come back to Amanda Allen. So she was, 2 days later, our PROACT unit, which is the undercover plainclothes unit, went out to her residence and arrested her a second time for the burglary back in February. She is also a suspect in at least 2 Redmond apartment burglaries, as well as, I'm sure, plenty more burglaries in the King County area. Here's another one of our prolific commercial burglaries. This guy targets, this is Addison Mortensen. He likes to target closed businesses, primarily focusing on restaurants. First came to our attention in April of 2024. Officers responded to multiple cold burglaries in the 100 block and 300 block of Kirkland Ave. Several businesses that had been broken into overnight using a crowbar. Officers recovered surveillance footage and latent prints belonging to the suspect. Case was assigned to Detective Stevie, who, utilizing kind of regional connections, linked the same suspect to 2 additional burglaries in Issaquah and several burglaries in Edmonds as well. At this point, though, it was all tied off of surveillance footage, and they didn't have a suspect identification. In July of this year, the fingerprints that our officers collected during that initial scene processing came back to Addison. We were able to file multiple counts of burglary on him. At the time, we didn't make a physical arrest because he was already in custody in Spokane County Jail. Again, for burglary. So just one of these prolific offenders. And I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about, our patrol response and how a combination of both surveillance footage along with actual fingerprinting, we still do that, can really help resolve crimes. We also like to partner with our neighboring agencies. It's oftentimes stacking charges, right? So if we're able to bring, instead of just a burglary case, we're bringing forward 5 burglary cases. When you're dealing with felony crimes, they're all going to be reported to King County. And being able to work with our partners and really stack those charges and bring forth 2, 3, 5 different burglary charges on somebody, the likelihood of them being held accountable is quite a bit higher. So I just want to highlight 2 kind of success stories from the downtown corridor that happened this year. If you are interested in finding out about additional crimes, we do use crime mapping. So anybody's able to get on, they can look up crimes specific to addresses, neighborhoods, and that's just through the online crime mapping. If you go to the Kirkland Police website, you can easily find it under the community crime mapping. We also offer tips to avoid basic crime prevention tips, including burglaries, identity theft, firearm safety. I highly encourage people to go there as a resource, look at some of these tips and what you can do to help kind of safeguard your business, and things that you can do after you've been victimized as well, especially along with the identity theft. Oftentimes, when somebody gets victimized and their identity is stolen, it might become a reoccurring thing where they keep getting additional accounts opened up and keep getting additional letters of fraud. So there's a lot of tips that you can do to help protect yourself once your identity is stolen. Quick little update on traffic updates in Moss Bay. So just in the since September 1st of 2024 through today, we've had 51 traffic tickets issued in the Moss Bay neighborhood. Now, this does not include the automated school zone cameras on State Street. 24 of the tickets have been right there on Central Way, 7 on Lake Street, Lake Street and Lake Street West, 8 on Kirkland Ave and Kirkland Way, 2 on State Street South, and these again not the automated tickets, and then 10 written off of 6th Street, busy 6th Street Square, right? So you've probably seen our officers there, but we are doing a lot of traffic enforcement in the downtown area. We've also, one of the big complaints we frequently get is modified exhaust and noise complaints in the downtown area, especially in the summertime. We are doing a pilot program right now for noise violation. We have basically 3 cameras / decibel readers installed in that area. One's on Central Way, one at 6th Street and Northeast 80th Street and 85th Street, and another one in the Hope Beach area. Now, these are currently just doing kind of research and development and figuring out how big of a problem it is, but we're hoping to use that data to increase our enforcement, specifically for modified exhaust and some of the noise pollution, which we do recognize can be a quality of life issue for many residents. We have heard the downtown residents. We want to be able to take enforcement, and this is kind of our first step at utilizing technology to help quantify that problem so that we can take bigger steps moving forward. I don't want to step on somebody else's toes because I saw there's going to be somebody talking about the pedestrian scramble downtown, but we do have a lot of construction happening right there on Lake Street, and this spring there should be the pedestrian scramble starting. You guys don't know what that is. That is going to be the intersection at Lake Street and Kirkland Ave. Will become a 4-way pedestrian walk all at the same time. It's going to be great in terms of helping kind of move a lot of congestion quickly and reduce those vehicle versus pedestrian collisions as well. In terms of big events that the police are going to be involved with, we've got the 12 Ks of Christmas coming up on December 15th. We just had the turkey trot this last Sunday, and now the 12 Ks of Christmas coming up. So if you guys aren't familiar, great events. We always get a lot of participation. Our police department is actively involved in helping the traffic management component of those. I want to quickly touch on, since I mentioned construction, the Northeast 85th interchange was closed this past weekend. A lot of cars were detoured on Northeast 116th and Northeast 70th Street. And there is another detour tentatively scheduled for January. They'd actually asked to do it on December 15th, and our department pushed back and said, no, we don't want detours happening when there are significant downtown events. So the December 15th closure was canceled or pushed out, and it will now be scheduled for a future date in January. This summer, the Kirkland Police Department established a crowd management unit, essentially utilizing what we've seen in Seattle. Seattle PD is nationally famous for being able to manage large crowds utilizing bicycles. So we had our first class run through it in October. We are now have basically a crowd management unit that has been certified through the International Police Mountain Bike Association, and we're working with regional partners, Redmond, Bellevue, Bothell, to try and create a regional team that's going to be able to do more efficient response when we get these demonstrations downtown, especially if they start to get disruptive or if there might be property damage. Again, our number one role is to support First Amendment assemblies, but we also want to make sure we can do it in a way that is peaceful and law-abiding, and that we have the capability to respond in a way effectively when there maybe does start to turn into problems as well. So that's the goal of this new crowd management unit. I'm actually part of the unit as well. I've been able to go through that kind of training. Seattle Police Department were the host of that training, and they're a phenomenal team. They're committed to helping provide ongoing training as well. In the most recent training, we actually had participants from Seattle Police Department, the UW Police Department, King County Sheriff's Department. Kirkland had a large representation there. Bellevue, Redmond, Fife sent some people up as well. So there really is a big regional effort. And we're anticipating there's going to be a more and more need for it as well, especially as FIFA World Cup's coming to town next year, March 26th as well. As I mentioned, we have a new animal control officer, Officer Angela Arnold. She got hired back in the summer. She's been doing a phenomenal job. Even when you're calling on the weekends, she's currently a Monday through Thursday employee. But when you're calling on weekends, our officers are handling those calls, sending her emails, and she's following up with stuff that happened over the weekends. You'll see her in the parks. She's out doing proactive patrols, talking to people, hosting events in terms of making sure pet licensing is happening, vaccination verifications, whatnot. And she's also helped implement this new texting component where you can actually text the word pets to this number and you can start reporting stuff via text message. And speaking of reporting, right? If you ever have an emergency, call 911. We do have a non-emergency number you can call as well. I highly want to encourage people, if it's any type of an emergency, call 911. We oftentimes get people who spend time looking for a non-emergency number. It is the same dispatch center. It's just, regardless of which number you call, they're going to be able to sort out how quickly you need a response. But oftentimes, if a crime has just occurred and the person's fleeing, a 911 call is still going to be better because we're going to be able to flood the area with officers, have a faster response, and more likely be able to apprehend that person. So if there's a question on whether non-emergency versus 911, I recommend calling 911. Non-emergency is going to be for those situations where it's a cold motor vehicle prowl. It may have happened sometime over the weekend. You don't really have any sort of leads to go off. And then, of course, we also have an online reporting option as well. And that's being more and more used. It's a great resource. I encourage people to use that. It allows people to upload information. They can upload surveillance footage. They can upload pictures. And it's a great way if you don't want to take the time to make a call and interact with the officers directly. Our online reporting is always available. Likewise, we have our Kirkland portal. That's going to be not just police related, but that could be things for parks, roadways, missing signs, recommendations for speed bumps, or engineering components that might help traffic related issues. We get a lot of stuff with mooring buoys and boating through our Kirkland portal. But again, it's a general city portal that will then get routed to the appropriate department, including the police department, for non-emergency type issues and requests. And again, that's just off of the city's website. The Kirkland Police Department's always trying to be transparent. We do have dashboards available. We have our use of force dashboard. We have a transparency dashboard, and then our community resource officer dashboard as well. Highly recommend people go and take a look at that. Get all that information. Is going to show statistics over the last year or two in terms of the type of work we're doing, type of force that we use, who that is being used against, the types of crimes we're responding to. Great resources. And that's it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions people might have.
Great, thank you so much. Maybe I could kick things off. Question for you in terms of the animal control position. I'm just curious, what sort of are the main duties, or like here in Kirkland, what is the most, where do they spend their time the most?
Yeah, so I would say they actually spend a lot of time doing follow-up on animal complaints. Right? So we get a lot of people complaining about dog barking, aggressive animals, and so they can do some of the follow-up on that and help mitigate some of those issues.
Okay.
They're also responding to a lot of complaints about off-leash dogs in parks that don't allow for it. And then they also do some criminal investigation. I know that Officer Arnold, at the time I was a patrol sergeant, when she first came on, we actually had an animal abuse case. That family had over 37 animals living in the home. A lot of the animals weren't getting medical care, not doing well, and then she actually worked with our patrol to go in, seize the animals, and then we prepared a criminal case that now prohibits that person from possessing animals in the future.
Okay. Question from...
You are going to see her out in the parks as well.
Okay.
Truck, wave at her. She's very friendly, and she's out and about in the community.
That's great. Sue, you have your hand up, literally. Nope, you're still muted, Sue. There you go.
I wanted to ask about that Amanda woman who just kept getting arrested for her burglaries of the storage units. Why was she back out and able to keep robbing? What were her punishments? What happened to her the first time you arrested her?
And so that's going to be a bigger issue in terms of criminal justice system. So here in King County, we do everything we can as a police department to hold people accountable, right? And we'll make those physical arrests. We'll put them in jail. Unfortunately, we've seen kind of a decrease in sentencing. And I should say she hasn't probably gone through sentencing yet, but between low bails, people are oftentimes released back into the community pretty quickly when there's not a person injured, right? We're talking property crime. And unfortunately, that is where we start seeing compounding cases building up. The second individual I actually referenced, he has warrants in multiple states for his arrest. Now he's incarcerated right now in Spokane, but I ran his name through a database prior to coming into this meeting, and he had warrants for burglary out of California, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Washington as well. So, frankly, that's a bigger issue in terms of what is society wanting to do with the criminal justice process and how do we want to hold people accountable. But I will tell you that the Kirkland Police Department does work really hard in terms of putting together the strongest cases we can and bringing those forward to the prosecutor's office.
Thank you.
Okay, Barbara has a question. Can you provide any info on the 6 or 7 unit response to something that happened at the Kirkland Transit Center a few days ago?
Certainly. Yeah, our officers did respond to an assault call where an individual was assaulted with a metal baton. This is an isolated incident. The parties were known to each other. Again, we did see a large police response for that. That's because of the nature of the crime. We are talking a felony level assault. And our big response and the call, the fact that we got multiple calls on this right away as it was happening with good suspect description, we were able to apprehend that suspect. He is now in custody on a $150,000 bail.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So Chuck asks, I think, what impacts do the DAs or prosecuting attorneys have on the morale of the KPD?
Also, great philosophical question. Again, I would say that the Kirkland Police Department has a good morale, right? We feel really well supported in the community. People make us feel appreciated, and we do the best we can, right? Property crimes can be frustrating for officers, right? Having repeat offenders that are back out in the community quickly can be frustrating. What I will say is the benefit of having our own jail and a great municipal court judge. He also feels strongly about holding people accountable. I will say that there are times where this is public knowledge, but if you go out to the King County prosecutors, it's called King County Filing and Disposition Standards, you'll see that the King County Prosecutor's Office actually has higher standards than the revised Code of Washington for what they will accept in a case. So, for instance, a felony level theft second degree is $750 per the revised Code of Washington. The King County Prosecutor's Office won't take unless it's at least $2,000. Our Kirkland Municipal Court judge has said, I want to hold these people accountable. Please let me know when somebody's engaged in organized retail theft or has a history of doing this. And if they're getting filed through my court, I will hold them accountable and put higher bails. And actually, so there are times when you will see that something may have gone to a felony level King County Prosecutor's Office. Instead, we'll end up using our own Kirkland Municipal Court through a gross misdemeanor type charge, where there's just a higher quality of service, right? The court and the jail and even the probationary office hold people to the standard that Kirkland residents would like to see, along with services as well, like working with our mental health professionals and substance abuse providers, right, to provide higher level of care and service while holding people accountable for their actions.
Chuck has asked a follow-on question. How many photo-generated school camera tickets have been issued?
I don't have that exact number today. Sorry.
No. Hey, thank you so much. I think that's all the time we have for you today. I definitely appreciate you and all of the service that you've Oh, sorry. One more. Let me just pop this in. Jean asked, could we have more traffic speed signs on Central Way and less speeding by cars? So,
And again, what I'd recommend is using that online portal. So the signage actually goes, we have, the Kirkland Signs Department and the City Streets Department. They inevitably make the decision, and that's going to be an engineering issue in terms of how often we're going to have those signs and where they're placed. So by making that recommendation through the portal, that should get routed to our traffic engineers, who are then going to see that that's a reoccurring issue. Trust me, we know that the community doesn't like speeders, and we know that they don't like modified exhaust, and we do put a big emphasis to the best of our ability to try and enforce those. And I'm sorry, I don't have a specific number on school automated cameras. I can get that if you guys want to have me come back next week.
all right. So definitely that'll be the last question. Thank you so much again for joining us today. That was one of the it was a fantastic presentation with the full summary and very specific examples. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Let's go. Okay, next, we have an overview of the new projects and the developments that are happening in our neighborhood. Brenda Nunes, our board member, is going to cover this piece for us.
Okay.
If I can share.
Got my slides, I think. So what I'm doing tonight is covering Moss Bay. Oh, that's the last one. What I'm doing tonight is covering Moss Bay specifically, and then early next year, I think we need to cover the whole area and talk about the comp plan updates and what those are going to mean. So next slide. So I was asked to do this presentation last year, and I thought it was really interesting to compare last year to this year. This year we have less inventory than we had last year at this time, and that last year we thought it was small. The range of active listings is actually tighter. Low end about half a million, going up to 2.2 million, with the median of 1.3 million. Average price per square foot is 814. Actually, that should just be $814, not. And it is down from last year significantly. Days in market, average 45 days. Alex's head is hiding a picture of the that's what a lowest price, and then the median price is in the middle, and the highest price currently active is in the right. And we can go on to the next. Pending properties, we have 6 right now. Last year we had 9. That makes sense with less inventory. The range is from 425,000 to a little bit over $1 million, with the median being 810,000. Interesting, look at the difference between average price per square foot, 629 versus 876. The lowest price that is pending is actually one of the development projects that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And it was listed at I think 425,000. And the highest price is an older condo. And if I had asked people what you thought, it would be, you probably wouldn't be saying that. Next. Alex? Yeah. Sold properties. In the last 6 months, 55 properties have sold, ranging from 263,000 all the way up to 13.5 million, with the median of 1.6 million. Average price per square foot, 820,000 versus almost not $820 a square foot versus almost 900. And we always have one lake. It seems like we always have one lakefront that kind of skews the averages, but we've got the lower on the left, the median, and the high. And The lower priced are actually, when you see something that's under $500,000, chances are it's Arch Housing, which builders and developers are setting aside one unit per 10 that they build for lower income buyers. Go to the next. New construction. The price range, the sizes range from just a little bit over 1,100 square feet to 3,600 square feet. Average days on market 37. Notice the average price per square foot is $851. And we would almost have expected it to be higher than existing construction, but it's not. The one that's pending for 425,000 is Arch, or the Regional Coalition for Housing. Anyway, these are samples of new construction, and I'm going to get into a little bit more discussion about what we're seeing in new construction properties. Next. One of the projects that last year when I did this presentation, it was basically a hole in the ground. This is on the corner of Kirkland Way and 6th. And the price range is from the Arch House, which is under $500,000 to $2 million. And they range from 1,500 square feet to 2,500 square feet. So far, with the exception of the Arch House, nothing else is under contract. Next. This project, they just started selling last year at this time, 13 townhomes on 2nd Avenue. The price ranged from 1 to 2 million, 1,100 square feet to 2,500 square feet, and they have no more active listings. This is a sample of what you're going to see a lot of in the future. There is an ADU code in Kirkland that allows you to put one house and 2 accessory dwelling units, one attached, one detached. And there is a process to condominiumize so that you can sell each one of those homes separately. So when you're looking these days at real estate in Kirkland, you will see many lots that have 3 separate living units on them. And they typically are going to range somewhere from $1 million to $2 million, but is giving 3 different families an opportunity to buy a home where there was one. New construction projects that are under construction. There's a Copper Creek condominium. This is the same developer, the Cordella Group, that did the 15-unit development behind Bartell Drugs in the last year or two. They have 6 condos that are between 2,000 and 2,200 square feet, and they'll be released the first quarter of 2025. You drive by and you can see what the structures are going to look like. The Mira townhouses, and this was the question everybody had last year, because for like 2 years, this site was just gated and no action whatsoever. Now there are 22 townhomes. I'm not sure yet if none of them have hit the market. I'm not sure if they're going to be rentals or for sale. But 22 townhomes, you can drive by, and they're pretty close to being completed. Other new constructions on Central Way, Monarch. It's directly it's on about the 100 block of Central Way. And this is Lula Yang and her business. She's does wedding gowns and major corporation uniforms throughout the world. This project has been taking them a lot longer than they expected. I'm not sure if they really thought that they would be demoing the whole building, but long story short, the groundwork has been done, the concrete has been poured, and they anticipate starting more activities on site in the second half of December and early January. So, and then that's good. And then everybody always asks about the US Bank building, and I believe that there is a design review meeting tonight. Cordella Group, the same one that has the other condo development, is planning to do a 26 residential unit on top of mixed use. It is in design review at this time. And I know that there is some concern about the alleyway behind the project. It's very close and there's a lot of issues. What are we going to do with the garbage? How will we access, et cetera? But this is a good group. They've really worked hard on this project. So hopefully next year at this time, when I report, they'll be selling units. Then a few other projects that could be on the horizon in Moss Bay, 200 Central Way, investment group, C West Investments, has a plan for 20 residential plus office, but they have been silent and the city says there's nothing new to report. Other question that constantly comes up is what's happening with the Bartell drugstore site. No activity yet. We're waiting. Kirkland Urban South Building shell has been completed, but the city has no requests for tenant improvements right now. And market observations for Moss Bay, it's still very desirable. Interest rates, like everywhere, have tempered the market, but it is still a buyer's market. Housing is still very expensive, but ironically, the average price per square foot was lower this year by about 8%. We know we need more affordable housing, but we have started to make small inroads. And I would say expect to see much more middle housing, especially the single family lots that are using the ADU DADU condo process. And we still have quite a few empty storefronts. And I think with that, I'll leave to see if there's any questions and know that early next year, we'll come back with a citywide update on development.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Brenda. Okay, I'm looking in the chat. I think Chuck has a few details he wanted to add. Project at Kirkland Way and 6th Street has only one arch unit at 436,000. The others start at 1.4 to 1.9. Sorry.
Yep, I think you're absolutely correct there. I think the complication is that the arch units, the builders are actually losing money on those units. And so anybody buying the other units are actually paying for those units. So the city basically developed a development agreement that for every 10 homes you provide one or you pay into some kind of fund.
Got it. And the Mirror Project, 4 stories high, 1 room wide, no elevators. Okay. I think that's it. Any other questions for Brenda before we move on?
B, do you have anything to report from the meeting today?
Oh, there's
Hi,
B.
everybody. Hi. I just signed off from the Design Review Board meeting. They are continuing their deliberation as we speak on the Central Peak project. So hopefully we'll have a decision tonight. We'll see.
And that
to add that
Central Way
project, I'll be shocked if the Mirror project doesn't start at 2 million or more. But you have to be an athlete to live there.
I don't know about that.
Gotta climb 4 stories.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I get it. Okay, I just got the joke. Sorry, Chuck. I'm slow on the uptake. Sorry.
Okay, great overview. Thank you so much, Brenda.
You are welcome. And then early next year, we'll come back and have more of a citywide view of development.
Perfect. Okay, next we're going to talk about the neighborhood safety program that's kicking off here. Do I see Dawn on at all? Hang on. Okay, no, I don't see. Okay, I don't see Dawn. Yeah, originally we were just going to do just a quick recap of the projects that were approved from last year. Apparently, our project was approved as along with all the other ones that were proposed. I think the shortlisted ones. So that's good news as to when they're actually going to be completed. That's a better question. The one that we had approved 2 years ago still, I don't think has actually started, which was the rapid flashing beacon next to the Aegis facility there. And I would like to introduce Jean Large, who's our liaison for this year's program. Jean, are you there?
She
I saw you
was.
earlier. Okay, maybe she had some connectivity issues. But what we want from everybody is to potentially get some new ideas for this year. These are the, I guess, the guidelines for submissions. They are available on the city website. I think in the past, Don has asked that you just send them directly to us first so that we can compile them as opposed to going into the system and then back out to us. Just loses a bit of time. Just so send an email to contact@mossbay.org. We'll get that. If not, you can simply use the online form as well that the city gets, and then they'll send it to us as well. So any ideas to improve traffic, pedestrian, bike safety through our neighborhood would be well appreciated. And there is some talk of doing some sort of collaboration with other neighborhoods. So we'll hear more about that as that sort of develops there. Oh, there you are, Jean. Hello? Yeah, having troubles hearing you here. But sorry, I just covered the request for new proposals. All right, thanks. Okay. So next we have new business introductions. Do we have, is Fernando or someone from Rimini online with us today? Nope. Okay. Sue, did they say they were going to attend?
Yeah, he was very enthusiastic about getting involved with the neighborhood, and they're not open on Monday. He said that's going to be perfect.
Okay.
So I'll check with him and double check before our next meeting
Okay.
because he seemed very anxious to do it.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
And so pretty much summarizing here, someone asked me to make an announcement. There is a city council study session tomorrow at 5:30, so you can either attend in person or in Zoom. Some of the topics will include, I think, Michael mentioned some of the things that were happening as well in terms of the budget, but also there's study on the 2024 comprehensive plan, and there might be a discussion in terms of the amendments to the language around Park Lane. Okay, with that, yeah, I think that brings us to the end of our meeting. Our next happy hour will be December 9th. The next meeting will be on January 13th next year. So if I don't see you on the 9th, have a great holidays, everyone, and thanks so much for attending. Let's do this. Thanks, Sue. See ya.
Now, Alex, can
Yeah.
I wanted to, if anybody's still on, I wanted to talk about Ignite Kirkland. It's a new thing. There's a banner across Lake Street it's the Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation. They have amassed, oh gosh, like 30 projects from nonprofits to fund some of their fund projects. Amazon has given them some funding. So I wanted to put in a plug for a project I put in through the Kirkland Heritage Society. It is a utility box on 7th Avenue that I would like to wrap with historical photos about how important 7th Avenue was back in Peter Kirk's time. So you can donate online to many, many projects. So I wanted to just put in a plug for mine. And you can go to, let me see, Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation.org. So it's kpcf.org. And the other thing is, Kirkland Main Street is having a Santa brunch on December 14th at Moss Bay Hall. And you can just go to the Moss Bay Hall website to find out about that. So that's it. Now I'm done, Alex. Thank you.
I think B is on the board of the Ignite as well, so that's great.
Oh, you're right. She is.
Okay,
good
so
night,
that was
everybody.
the Santa, what was it again? Santa brunch?
Santa brunch from 9 till noon on December 14th, a Saturday, at Moss Bay Hall.
7/14. Okay, I got it.
Alex, I'll send you a flyer on it. Maybe you could just put it on our website.
Sure. Yeah,
Oh,
love to do that.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Joyce.
Mm.